Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tammy's Takes. This episode is going to discuss something a little controversial, so I hope you guys stay tuned. But before I jump into the topic, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. So let's get into what we are going to be talking about today. And when I mean we, I just mean me. So you guys see the title. This is something that has been on my mind for a while, especially in the political climate that we are in currently. And before I jump into my opinion about Jesus and him being a radical thinker, I want to say in no shape or form am I telling anyone to not practice a particular religion. I am not denouncing or dismissing anybody's faith. I myself am a Christian. I am just having dialogue about some of the things that I am noticing with our political leaders and how they try to correlate some of their decisions with religion and how it's kind of off-putting. And so if you are Christian, Buddhist, practice Hindu, practice Islam, whatever your religious affiliations is, this particular video is not trying to deter you from that. And this is also not trying to dismiss anyone's feelings about their religious convictions. However, I do want to discuss radical thinking and why I think Jesus was a radical thinker, because in this current climate I am noticing a lot of leaders, some political, some not, and also even constituents, people in our community, people who we may come in contact with on a consistent basis, and how they take a stance politically, but they correlate it to what would Jesus do, and Jesus will want our world to be this way, and they align themselves with some rhetorics that are problematic for all people, and they use religion to do it. Now, this is nothing new. Religion has been used to promote many of atrocities in our, especially in American culture. So people have used religion to push agendas that are very much problematic, and this has always been the case. But I am thinking about me as a Christian and really following Christ's behavior and being Christ-like. Like, that's exactly what the word means. And when I think about Jesus and when he came into this society, or when he came into this world, how much of a radical thinker he was, how much that he wasn't a follower. He definitely made sure that he spoke truth, and spoke truth very, very directly. And 9 times out of 10, the truth that he spoke was against not only political leaders, but also religious leaders as well. And so I kind of want to kind of dig deep into that, because I don't think, like, the political parties that we have in America, most people are either Republican or Democrat. You have few and far between people that I'm aware of that are independent, or they practice in the Green Party, libertarianism. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's that one that starts with the L. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But most of us fall into those two categories, or most of us don't really think about our political affiliations until it's really time to vote and what that really means. But essentially, how you vote speaks to how you want to move into the world, how you want the world to affect you, but not only you, but others. And when I think about those that are now coming out as radical progressives, or people who are radical thinkers, they are here to dismantle the two-party system, right? They are here to say it's flawed on both ends and it doesn't work. The Republicans don't work for us, the Democrats don't work for us, and we need to dismantle the way the society is currently working. And in those conversations, a lot of people who are radical thinkers or people who self-proclaimed radical thinkers, they will say that they are just speaking facts, they are speaking truths, and to research what they are saying so that you can understand that they are speaking truth and facts. And sometimes the truth can really, really derail somebody's whole entire being. When someone is questioning your faith, especially, or saying what you believe, that helps, that essentially depicts what you vote for. A lot of people vote not only with facts but with emotion and what they morally believe is correct. And that is usually tied to, for most of us, our religious convictions. Now you have those that they just think you're a good person and I'm going to base my choices and decisions off just being a good person, which I think is a great way to go when it comes to politics. If I'm genuinely just a good person, I want everybody to be well in a society, I'm going to lean off of that. And that's why I said Jesus probably was a radical thinker. If you think about how he would discuss things in a way that upset both political leaders and religious leaders, a lot of people who are radical thinkers disrupt both entities, right? They not only want to disrupt politics, but they also question and disrupt religion. And that does not mean that they don't believe in God and that they don't have a moral compass or they don't have a faith. They just have questions. And within those questions, they have revelations, and there are things that are revealed to them. And I think when I think of Jesus was always questioning like the Pharisees and Sadducees and saying, why are you speaking this particular thing when that's not true? Yes, it has some form of truth to it, but you're not telling the whole story. You're not telling the whole truth. And when he did, people thought he was crazy. So many times in the Bible, a lot of people question Jesus's tactics and his thought process and why he did what he did, especially when they were quote unquote religious leaders or lawful people in government. No one was really checking for Jesus like that, except for those that eventually changed their mind and it was revealed to them that he was actually speaking honest facts. And I think we're in this period where a lot of people, I don't like to say woke, but for the sake of, for the sake of arguing here, I will say that a lot of people are wanting to get to the most highest version of themselves, and they are wanting to eradicate some of those thought process that kept them stagnant. And in that journey, you do start to question your political beliefs, you start to question sometimes your religious beliefs. You also start to question if you're moving in the same vein. Like, are you truly, especially if you are trying to walk as Christ-like as possible, are you really moving in the same vein that Jesus would move in? And I personally think, as a Christian, I'm starting to think like, yes, I think he would not have been on either side of the coin when it comes to politics. I think he would have been, I actually know that he would have been a radical thinker. He would have questioned, why are y'all making these type of policies? Why are you doing these type of decisions? I think Jesus would be a protester. He would be a grassroots leader trying to get the truth out there despite it being unpopular. Because I think for a lot of us, we're seeing now that what we were taught when it comes to both entities, religion and politics, and how they try to mesh them together is flawed. And also people using what would Jesus do to promote things like racism and xenophobia and sexism and things that are not Christ-like? Boggles my mind. That does boggle my mind. And I think Jesus would come and disrupt all of that. Because in the Bible, he was a disruptor. As soon as he was born, society disrupted. You know, the fact that he came from a virgin, that was already controversial. You know, him coming into the world through Mary was already a radical concept, because no virgin is having a virgin is not having a baby. If you really believe in that story. So the fact that he came through a radical form of conception, you couldn't help but think that he was a radical thinker. I love in the Bible how to get his truth out, to get the truth out about God, the ways that the society should be. One, he always did it with love and compassion and kindness as the foundation, which I think we are missing in society completely. There's so many people that are very individualistic. Like, if it doesn't affect me, then I don't care. If it doesn't affect my household, then I'm not worried about it. But the truth of the matter is, if you're being Christ-like, like some of these political people are saying, the most radical thing you can do is love someone, even without them reciprocating sometimes. And that may sound crazy to some, but to also say, I am going to be selfless enough to care about you, even if I don't know your full story. And the one thing that I love about Jesus and his radical way of loving is he loved people, good, bad, and ugly, but tried to pull the good out of them. If you think about the disciples that he picked, yeah, there were some disciples that were educated. There were some disciples that had, I guess you would say they were proper people of society, but a lot of them were just your regular, smegular people. Fishermen, doctors, a tax collector, teachers. They weren't political leaders. They weren't these religious leaders that knew the scriptures. They were just your regular everyday folk trying to get the word out here and make a difference. And I think that in itself was a radical move, because he could have easily said, I'm going to pick people that have some influence in a way that would probably get more people to listen. But I think when I think about in each phase of life, those people who actually moved mountains, they started off from very humble beginnings. Most of them grew to their, I'm not going to say fame, but grew to their, I'll say fame, grew to their fame in these particular arenas like politics, activism. Most of them were starting off excuse me, in grassroots ways, and they had radical thinkings to say, I'm going to do something different. We think about our political leaders in the Black community. Most of them started off very humble beginnings, but they dared to think differently so that they could change the world. And so when I hear people using Christ as their example, but they are not doing anything Christ-like, it upsets me to know that people are out here using someone who led with kindness, who led with compassion, who led with grace, who also thought of others in a way that was very communal. Jesus probably could have did all of this by himself. Let's keep it a buck. But he chose to build a community of people from all walks of life, because people from all walks of life are going to give you a different perspective. If you are going to always just be around those that think like you, that act like you, that have the same upbringing, then you're never going to grow, and you're never going to get a full viewpoint of the world, unless you just travel by yourself all day long, and who got time for that? But in my opinion, one of the best ways to be radical is to be with people that think in opposition of you. You still may disagree, but you can also learn from your enemies as well. And I think sometimes we just need to come to some form of middle ground to understand, like, yes, these are things that are also important, but that does not take away from the things that this is important of. And I think that is what makes being truly Christ-like being a radical thinker is truly Christ-like. That's what I am trying to say. That's why I came with my radical hair. I blew my hair out because I was going to do it, but I was like, why not come with your fro and be a little bit radical on your video? Because normally I would pull it back and be kind of put together. But I think when you use being a Christian or being Christ-like as your example to move in a way politically, you also have to think radically and outside of the box, because Jesus literally did that on a consistent basis. Hence why he was murdered. You know, it wasn't because he wasn't speaking truth. It was he was speaking truth at a time where a lot of people wasn't, and he was speaking it radically, like he was saying it not in a passive aggressive way. He literally was saying, this is what this means. This is why this means this way, and y'all are doing it wrong, and we have to fix this. In order for us to live an abundant life, this all has to be disrupted. And I think that's where we're at now, where if we all want to live in a peaceful, communal world, we have to disrupt some things, and that means thinking outside of your norm. That means thinking or shifting your perspective from what you thought you knew to what is now being revealed to you. Also, the one thing about Jesus too is he wasn't taking people's stuff at face value. Like, I know, like, he researched for himself. Now, granted, he also was Lord, so, you know, he knew the word before the word was the word, because he is the word. But at the same time, that was the example. I'm going to question you, because why are you saying it this way when that's not the truth? And I know it's not the truth. And sometimes we as collectives, and even as individuals, sometimes know when something is wrong, but we don't want to be ostracized or demonized for having radical thoughts. We don't want to come off as crazy. But sometimes you have to come off as crazy. Sometimes you have to just say, this is not what everybody thinks, but it has to be said. And then you being the catalyst to say it, make it other people to say, wait a minute, that does kind of make sense. I follow a couple of people, and I read and things of that nature, which I tell people to do. We should still be reading books, but I know that is a lost art. So if you are one of those people that likes to follow politics, if you even like to follow different forms of religion, because I'm a firm believer, even though I am a Christian through and through and through, I believe that you can learn so much from other religions, because we do some certain things similar. Doesn't take away my Christian walk, but I think once you open up your perspective to learning from these different perspectives and using their gifts to help promote what should be what we all want, which is everyone to have their freedom, their rights, to be able to be treated like a human and not just a number or a subhuman. I think we all want everyone to have peace of mind. And I know in this current climate, a lot of us are probably depressed or anxiety filled, or just not necessarily feeling our best. And we're hearing a lot of, especially if you grew up churchy and you grew up religious, you're hearing a lot of politicians use religion and saying that they are the example of what Christ wants us to be like, and you are thrown to a loop because you were like, no, that is not Christ-like at all. And why are they using that as their example to promote something that is so problematic and just evil? And I know being Christ-like means that you have to disrupt those particular type of people. You have to stand 10 toes tall and say, hey, I don't know what biblical book you're reading, the Bible, the Quran, whatever book you're reading, you're not reading it right. Because this is what this really meant. And if you are a person that studies theology or been to seminary, and you are using your education for good, because I know some people, you know, they go to seminary, they learn theology, take theology courses, they learn the history, they learn all of the Bible, and they don't preach it that way. And then you have those that do, and that is when it's up to us to be discerning and to research ourselves. That's why the Bible says, study to show thyself approved. Also, we can't just rely on our faith. We also have to do work. And part of the work is being truth tellers and being radical enough to stand 10 toes down in what is really true and what is really being said by God and the Holy Spirit. And also being true to that in your political walk. And that may be saying, you know what, I am no longer affiliated with two sides of the same coin, if that is the stance you want to take, or I am going to stay with my political affiliations, but I'm also going to understand that in those political affiliations, if something is wrong or someone in that particular party is saying something that is evil, that is not true, that is definitely not communal, then I need to speak to that. And I think that is where I would say Jesus was a radical, because I think he would speak up no matter what the consequences would be. I think if he was alive today, which I know some people are very much Christ-like in their messaging, being that they speak up no matter what the consequences are, and they speak with intention, they speak with love in their heart, they speak with grace, but they are also speaking with truth. And it's up to us to discern what is true and what is not true. And because we have so much access to information, it's very easy to research these things, you guys. It's very easy to research and not just get fed what's being told to us. But if something gives you spidey senses and it just does not sound right, be radical enough to question it. Be radical enough to question it, research it for yourself, and then find out if it's true or not, and why the lie is being told, and how to dismantle the lie. I, for one, have to do better with that as well, because sometimes I don't want to buck the system. I'm a rule follower to a degree. Some people might say I'm not a rule follower, but I am. I am a rule follower, so I sometimes want to just follow the rules. I don't want to disrupt anything. I don't like conflict, but if I'm going to be Christ-like, I do need to be radical enough to sometimes disrupt things that I know that are wrong, and to disrupt things that I know that are lies, and to be honest with myself on how to do that. Now, you can disrupt a society in so many ways. You can be extremely Christ-like and go out there and be on the ground and get things, policies passed or policies dismantled that are not working for us as a community. You can also protest. You can also boycott. You can also do things on the back end. Maybe you are not that type of disruptor where you are using your body and your voice in that way, but maybe you can use your money and your means to help with dismantling what the world is now. Because I want to say, if you believe in the resurrection, if you believe in that Jesus is coming back soon, I think a part of that is disrupting what is already established, so that when he does come back, he will be coming back for those that stood 10 toes down. And so that is my video, you guys. I don't know if it was controversial. It may be. I said it was because I just called Jesus a radical thinker. And yeah, I did. But you guys leave your comments below. Do you guys think that radical thinking is now being promoted? And if it is, how would you say you are a radical thinker? Are you learning to be more radical in your thinking and dismantling some of those things and relearning some of the things that you need to relearn to be the best version of yourself, to be more truly Christ-like? Do you think Jesus was a radical thinker? Or do you think he would be, or do you think he was the type of person that just kind of went along? If you think that Jesus just went along to get along, and you ain't read nothing, and you ain't read not a story. I'm gonna say that now. I can say that with 10 toes. If you think Jesus was just here to get along, I don't know what Bible you read. Even if you are not a Christian, you should know that much. But do you think he was a radical thinker? Or what type of thinker do you think he was? Because I think he was a radical. And he came to disrupt the world that was, so that we could have the world that could be. And that world that could be was a world of no stress, peace, happiness, to get us back to that type of just euphoria. And that's all. So like, comment, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.